What's up, everybody? Hopefully you guys are having a good day today. So I just wanted to put together a quick live, nothing too fancy or crazy. I will be going live with Andy Schectman tomorrow, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. So we'll get his insights on what's going on with the market, especially the gold and silver market, and how it relates to interest rates. But today I thought I would at least throw something up. Gold's been going pretty crazy, so is silver the last several days. And I didn't get a chance to get a live stream out on Friday, so I thought I'd at least get one set up today. So anyway, I'm here to answer questions for you guys. I'm going to share a few things as well, but go ahead and just put comments down in the comment section there, and we can hit those. All right, so a couple quick things. So this week, the Fed is going to be coming out. Well, there's a couple things that come out. Tomorrow, there's an indicator that comes out. I forget exactly which one, but that is one to be watching for. We'll see if we can find it here in a minute. We also have the CPI index coming out this week. And then we've got the Fed will be meeting after the CPI index, and they'll be talking about cutting rates. So right now, we're going to go to that in just a second here, but it's been kind of a back and forth. Are they going to cut rates in September, or are they not going to do it? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. West Texas Stacker, how are you guys doing? And it's gotten to the point where people are believing it's 100% that they're going to cut a quarter. And I've even watched a video earlier today on YouTube where they were talking about there's the potential that they could even maybe do a half a point. Now, if they did that, we would see some major fireworks going off. It would really freak out the stock market. And I think it would also, freak out the bullion market. And each one of those would go in probably different directions. But the thing I want to have you guys just in the show about tonight is really, what do you do? Do you keep stacking? Do you keep buying? Do you start selling? Are we getting hot? Too hot? Is it time to start selling? All that kind of stuff. Or is it time to be buying more? But I'd love to hear from you guys. It's funny, my dad, he does have some precious metals, but he's also has a lot of money in the stock market and in real estate and other things like that. And when he looks at precious metals, they don't produce a yield. So it's not one of his favorite investments, but he does understand the importance of it. And it's usually not until gold starts taking off that I can get his attention and share with him that you should be buying all the way along. Okay. So, his dollar cost averaging is a couple times a year when gold starts to really take off and he starts to go, oh my gosh, I need to hurry and do it before it moves. One piece of advice I'm going to give you guys is I would buy as often as you have the funds to buy. Okay, that's the rule of thumb. I think they even mentioned that on Yankees channel today. There really is no perfect time to buy or sell. You're never going to time the bottom to buy perfectly. You're never going to time the top to sell perfectly. But I think the key is to be in the market right now, and it's to move your money out of the system. Okay, that's what I'm doing. So I'm slowly moving more and more of my money out. When I get more money, I put it into gold and silver. There's a couple times I've overdone it, where I've had to sell a couple ounces to pay for some other bills in an emergency, and then sometimes I have to go back and buy those when I can. And I may take a little bit of a hit in the gold price when I do that, but it was there for its job to secure my family. Going forward, I think we're going to get to the point where really the only time you're going to sell this stuff is after a reset. And I'll define what that means in a minute here. But if you're a stacker, you're not buying this to make money. You're not buying this to get a yield or an investment out of it. You're buying it because you believe the financial system is having major problems. The fiat dollar is going to start dying even faster. There's only 3 pennies left of the original dollar, by the way. Now, it can get stretched out very long. We're not paying $1 trillion for a watermelon yet. And I don't know that we'll ever get that bad. That's the kind of stuff you saw in Zimbabwe, Venezuela, and the German, I'm forgetting the name of it right now. One of you guys will have it. It's Reichmark is the I think it's what they were calling the the currency, but it was, it'll come back to me in a minute. Anyway, I don't think we're going to have hyperinflation like that. We are the world reserve currency, Weimar Republic. That's right. Thank you, Yodi. So we're not going to get that bad. And the reason I don't think we're going to get that bad is because we are the reserve currency still. We're still the petrodollar, even though we've been losing dominance. But there are things to watch about. And some of the things I'm going to talk to Andy about, and I'll get to your guys' comments in just a second here, tomorrow, that I really want to hit with him is there are things starting to move with the BRICS. So we've just had President Trump basically put out some posts about India starting to team up with both China and Russia. And that is basically what you're looking at for the powerhouses of the BRICS nations. Could something be happening this year? Could it happen next year? Yeah, it could. Are they buying more U.S. debt? They're not. They've stopped doing that. They're buying more gold and silver. And so Operation Sandman is something that's a theory, okay? Some might call it a conspiracy theory. It's two different things, right? It's a theory that it could be done where these countries could dump all their UST bills and cause massive problems for the dollar. Technically, that's already happening at a slow pace right now. Pretty much all the debt is being purchased by either UST and then turning around and buying Bitcoin, which has been keeping the Bitcoin price high. It's not high because of just demand. As these stable coins get issued out, they're going to be able to buy up US debt too, which is going to allow the US to print more money. So, there's some mechanisms that are being created there that are I won't call them Ponzi schemes exactly, but they are schemes that are there created to kind of keep the US going with all of this. The next thing is interest rates getting cut. Okay, that's going to be very inflationary. But before we get to that, I want to just hit everybody up that's in here. So we had a CT87GN. He came in earlier. So many live streams are going today. I just kept pushing this out. And then decided I just need to go. Rob's in here too. Welcome, Rob. He said he's a ground-up home builder and rent out his properties, takes the rental income and stacks silver. I do all the work myself with no employees. I think that's awesome. So I grew up with my dad as a real estate developer and a banker. And I grew up going to projects where he would buy an old house on a piece of property here in California. And we would take baseball bats and sledgehammers to the house and just bust the windows out, bust holes in the wall. It was awesome. Kind of rip them down before the tractors came in. And then we'd even be able to sit on the tractors as they were, plowing them down. And then he'd build apartment complexes, shopping centers, things like that. But what Rob's saying here, I think, is a very key thing I do want to bring up. If you guys are tight on cash, look to see if you can create additional income with a side business. And as you do that, instead of going and spending that money, start using that to save up and buy things like silver and gold. I'd start with silver. If you start making a bunch where you can afford to buy an ounce of gold a month, you can do that too. Silver is going to outperform gold, but it's going to take time before that happens. You can see the ratio right now has come down from about 106, where the top was, down to, I think it's at 87 right now. Let me just look over here. Or it's at 88.28. It'll be backwards on here, guys, but you can see that. Let me see if I can turn it so it doesn't go backwards, because I might share a few things. Give me just a second here. I don't know why they always do that. There we go. All right. This is reality now. So here we go. So you can see the gold to silver ratio. We're going to go low tech today. You can see that. Okay. And now let's go back out in the last year. You can see that we got up to, it was about 107, 106. That chunk right there is where you wanted to be swapping your gold for silver. I thought it could go quite a bit higher, and there are still some cases to where it could go higher again, guys. But the reality is most likely it's not going to do that again in the near future here, unless we have something happen that becomes more stable. And right now, from what I'm seeing, it does not look very stable. I think things are looking like they're starting to kind of fall apart. So I'd agree with Rob on this too. I like silver more than gold right now. I've got a friend that you guys might see in the comments here, OC Stacker. He is a silver sleuth. He knows how to go find great silver prices, and I just picked up a bunch of silver from him at spot price a few days ago, and the spot price has already moved up quite a bit from us. And I wanted to pick up more of it, but I also know the importance of having some cash around. So don't get caught up in chasing the great silver prices and then realize that you have overspent and you don't have enough cash. But I was able to pick up some great deals from him. And those were under $40 an ounce. Okay. And they were sovereign coins. They weren't like buffaloes. We're talking maples. We're talking some Year of the Horse Britannias. I've never seen those before. They were kind of cool. So you guys be looking for the deals out there. They're definitely out there. And shout out to Mr. and Mrs. West Texas Stacker. If you guys have any big questions for me, make sure you put them in bold, because I'm going to say hi to everybody here and then we'll do a few things. There's so many streams on right now, guys. You can probably put up a bunch of them. So, help everybody else out. You can pick up a different things. So this is kind of what I'm doing. I'm buying. Now, one of the things I will say to be careful of too is, I first started with bullion, and then I moved very quickly into some collectibles. And when I mean collectibles, it's more of like your modern stuff. So, fun coins that might run more of the $50 or $60 range back when silver was around $25. And I like those coins that I have, but, I've realized I don't love them as much as I would have loved to have just more ounces in silver. So one caution I'll give you guys is do not buy too many fancy coins. Keep that to a minimum, less than 5% of your stack. For a lot of you, it might even need to be more like 1%. And, and I would do that, that's based off of like ounces and stuff, right? You could go off of price if you want, but I've done too many of those. I've tried to sell a bunch of that stuff on eBay, and now I'm being hit with a ton of stupid taxes and other fees in California and all this junk. I'm kind of fighting with my accountant on it right now to finish our taxes for last year. It's going to turn out it would have been better just to hold this stuff instead of trying to flip it and get less expensive stuff. So be careful with that. Don't go too crazy on the expensive stuff. Watch out for that. Buy less, but stay consistent. Yes, I agree. So, I look at it and I go back to 2021, which is when I started buying a bunch of gold and silver. And I wish I would have bought more faster, but you never know. You never know exactly where it's going to go, and you don't know what your cash needs are going to be. And I started buying a bunch, and then I ran into a few issues where my job did not pay as much, and they started to kind of claw back some of the income. And it has slowly returned, but I'm still not to where I was in 2020. I'm still making about 15 to 20% less. So you got to be careful with that stuff. You don't want to go too crazy buying a bunch of it. All right, opinion on a platinum. Okay, let's talk platinum for a second for Dennis here. So let me show you guys platinum, because I do have an opinion on it. I plan on buying more platinum than I have right now. Where am I at right now? I think I only have 2 ounces of platinum at the moment. So I'm looking to increase that quite a bit, but I want to point out a couple things to you guys. Okay, so look at platinum there. You can see it's up $15. I'll put in the percentages so you guys can see the changes here. Platinum is doing better right now than gold and silver at the moment, and it is going up quite a bit. When I bought my platinum, it was around $900 an ounce last year, and I bought some graded CC American Eagles, and I want to say I paid $1,100 for those. They're MS70, but they're the last year that they made them. I think that's 2023 was the last year. I could be wrong. It might have been last year was the last year they made them. Anyway, those are cool. I got a great deal on them at the time, and they've appreciated nicely. Platinum, I do not think is going to outshine gold until we get back to more stability. So I would expect gold to continue to run really high. And, I've had Kevin on a few times on the channel, and he does a lot of awesome charting. He's Wadsworth with North Star Bad Charts, and he sees an $8,000 to $12,000 gold price between 2028 and 2032. I think that's conservative. And one of the reasons I think it's conservative is I believe that the Treasury is going to revalue gold before then. I could be wrong, but I think they're going to revalue it. I think what they're probably waiting for is a little bit higher gold price. My guess is closer to $5,000, and then I think they'll market to market. Right now, gold is valued at $42.2222. That's it. It is not valued very high. When they do that, it allows the Treasury to create basically money for the government to use without, let's just call it the White House to use, without having to go through Congress. Okay, that's a key thing. They don't have to go and raise a debt ceiling. They don't have to do anything else to it. Once they do that once, I don't see why they wouldn't continue to do it and create more money and money and money. Now, depending on what they do with that money, it depends on whether it's inflationary. If all they do is keep it on the books and they don't use it, it's not inflationary because it's not doing anything. It's not going into the supply. It's just a fancy accounting sleight of hand is what I would say. If they put it on the market, then it is inflationary because it's more money more liquidity into the market. So as far as platinum goes, I don't expect until after those kind of things happen that we're going to see platinum go price to price with gold and maybe even double or quadruple it. Could those things happen? It could. So to me, platinum is very much more of a speculation. I probably won't go more than 1% of my stack in platinum. Maybe I'd go 2%. I don't know. I haven't decided on that yet. But to me, I hardly have any of it right now. I'll probably go and get quite a bit more. Maybe I'll get a tube of them or something like that down the road. But it's something that I'm adding as I find the right prices. I'm still trying to get to a certain number of silver and gold, and then I'm going to be going a little bit more heavy into platinum. I think you've got some more time on platinum, though. I don't think it's going to just go skyrocketing. A couple things to remember here. The Fed's going to be starting to lower rates. If they continue to do that, we're going to have some issues that start to develop in the stock market. And if that gets shaky, you will see some of the metal prices come down. Platinum will be one that will go down quite a bit. So what I would tell you is if it's a long-term hold, then you buy it when you feel like you have the money for it and when you want to do it. Do I think it's a bad price? No. I think we'll probably see platinum somewhere in the, let's see, if gold's going to do, 8 to 12,000, I think we could probably see platinum up into the $6,000 to $8,000 range. That would be a really nice multiple, right? I don't have any charts on that. It's just kind of going off the top of my head. Hopefully that helps a little bit. All right, so we've got Rick in here too from both coasts. So yeah, I'm out here in California, guys. The sun's just going down. All right, Mike Wilson, keep buying. Yes, keep buying. We will all be trillionaires soon. I hope not, man. If we're all trillionaires, that means everything's falling apart. It very well could happen, though. And what I will tell you is if we get to that point, you hold. You do not sell into, you don't want to be a trillionaire. I mean, go take like a dime and go turn it into $1 trillion so you can have one of those dollar bills. But most likely they'll never print that, right? We're in a new age now where once the $100 bill becomes something you use to buy like a Coca-Cola, I think they're going to stop cash. I think they're just going to get rid of it. And then it's going to go to the stable coins, and then, it'll be whatever. And they can just reverse split it. So I don't know that we'll ever get to $1 trillion of anything. But theoretically, yes, it could definitely happen. All right, let's see what else you guys have. All right. The Rio 7018 bought a 10th ounce Eagle today when I normally buy a 1/4 ounce, but I think at least I bought. I agree, guys. It's going to be hard. Like when gold was around $1,700, even $1,600, I could buy an ounce, and it wasn't killing me too much. I could keep doing that several times a year, and then it started to get to the point where it was a little bit tighter, and I moved over to 10th ounces. I think 1/4 ounces are good to get to. For me, I went with 10th ounces for a couple reasons. One, I was planning on selling a bunch of this on eBay, and they go pretty fast on eBay, and you can get the premiums for it. Number two, I had an opportunity to get a lot of the lynxes and bulls from Kagan coins at incredibly great prices, at wholesale prices. So I bought a bunch of those up. It cost me the same amount to buy a 10th ounce as it did to buy 1/4 ounces. Also from Andy Schectman, I've been able to buy a tube of 10th ounce earlier, and I was able to get those at an incredible price, and they were backdated too, which was pretty darn cool. So the key is to keep buying. You buy what you can afford. Now, if you get to the point where a 10th ounce is too much, go to silver. Okay, I think we're going to have a ways to go before silver hits $100. It could happen next year. If it happens this year, then we have accelerated the timeline big time. We've already now passed my silver prediction for the year, which was 40. We're now at 41.46, as you guys can see on here. We could hit 50 this year. We could maybe even go a little higher. Some people are projecting $60, $65. So you're going to get a little bit more bang for your buck with silver, but they serve different purposes. So I'll put that out here real quick. Gold to me is wealth insurance. Silver is how you barter, and it's also how you support your family for day-to-day needs. Gold is things like paying off your mortgage, shoring up your home, buying a car, for bigger trades. Now, keep in mind that the tax laws are not changing as gold and silver go up in price. So you really want to keep an eye on that. I have 100-ounce silver bars. I didn't want them, but the price was too good to pass up, so I bought them. I've already made $1,000 on them since the end of May per bar. And I do want to trade that into something else at some point. And the key is, can you trade without having to take a big transaction and hit? It's always going to be better to have smaller denominations if you can get a hold of it, because it's easier for taxation. It's easier to swap. 100-ounce bar, if silver went up to $1,000, $1,200, like Lynette Zhang said, I think it was last week, and she didn't say that's where it's going. She said it could happen, by the way. If it were to do that, a 100-ounce bar is going to be worth a lot of money. Okay, so you're going to be like 120 grand, and it's going to be hard to move that. So you want to be careful about having too large of denominations. Yeah, they've been buying it, but it's not taking up the difference of what Japan was doing, China, and other countries like Saudi Arabia. So we're still going to run into some problems with that, guys. And one of the problems we're going to have with that is this: as that debt gets moved more and more into our own hands, the U.S.'s hands, it puts more and more risk at the world deciding, hey, this isn't working anymore. We don't want this. What you're really going to see is the stable coins. The stable coins, including, and then also Bitcoin, are sponges. They're there, and they're really created, in my opinion, to soak up all of this excess printing that's going on. And you may say, well, there's all this inflation, all this stuff's happening. Yes, inflation's building into the price of the cryptos. People are holding them. The key is going to be, how long do they hold them, and what happens when they unload them, and where do they move into, and can they do it fast enough before it all comes back down? If you take the market cap of Bitcoin, that doesn't mean that there's that much money that will come out of it. Cryptos don't work like that. They've got these algorithms when you buy and sell it to where it boosts it up higher and it boosts it down. And so as a lot of people are selling, that's going to shrink very quickly. There's not that exact amount of money that's sitting there. It's not. Gold and silver kind of does the same thing. If the central banks were to unload all the gold, you'd see the same thing. The price just starts to disappear. It's like the stock market. You can have a stock that loses, $10 or $20 or 5 or 10% of its value when it opens, or it could go up 10% of its value when it opens, or even 30%. I've had my company stock do that. No one paid that difference. It's the way that the market and specialists price it. It's too much to explain on here, and I wouldn't get it all correct for you guys either. Okay, so Rob's got this here. He says, Newport Beach, California, house sold in 2010 for $266,000 and sold for $2.5 million in 2023. Why the price increase? Massive amounts of inflation, guys. That's why. The other reason is it's in Newport Beach, and you've got a lot of people that moved down from the Bay Area to get out of the mess that is San Francisco, and they've come down to Newport, and they've also, from Newport, they've pushed down further south to where I am, and houses have gone up here. Now, if you look across the country, I'll have to see if I can find the chart on X here for you guys, but houses priced in gold are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And that's an important to look at, because Let's see. Hopefully this is helping you guys. I'm like way behind. So I'll get through this stuff here though, guys. Okay, let me get up my bookmarks here. All right, it's pulling up. While it pulls up, houses priced in gold are getting cheaper, and that's important to understand from a national standpoint. However, it is something to that kind of works by region. For example, I just don't see California getting hit as hard as other places. We just didn't go up as much as a lot of other places did, and so I don't think we're going to be hit as much. Like, as far as I know, prices around here are still going up, and so you can have a couple weird things that happen with that. But let me find this chart right here. Pretty sure Kevin was showing it here. Let's see if I can find it. So much has been happening this last week, guys. It's hard to keep track of all these. Let's see. All right, shoot, I'll have to come back to it. But anyway, the chart's gone way down. Actually, no, just a second. I sent it to my dad, trying to encourage him to do some more stacking for my sake and for my sibling's sake. All right, I did send it to him. Just a second. It'll be in here. Let's see. Is it this one? Okay. Oh, it's not that one. All right, just a second. Sorry, guys. I don't know why this is so hard to find. Shoot. I guess we have had a lot of conversations this weekend. All right, I'll come back to that. I'll come back to the housing thing in a little bit. Let's keep going. All right, so War, welcome to the chat. Good to have you here. Beto D as well. Welcome. We've got Greg in here. Bought 3 Morgans today. Hey, I love Morgans. If you can find Morgans at a good price, buy those things as much as you can. Okay, on March 18th, 2020, GSR was 128. Yes, it was. I was not stacking at the moment. At least not actively. I did have silver at the time that I was getting as gifts, but I wasn't stacking heavily. That'd be the best time to swap from your gold into silver. Now, it's a whole game to play if you're doing the GSR, though, guys. I'll tell you, one of the things to watch out for is if you're doing it with a dealer, they've got to make money in the trade, okay? So if you get 128, you're maybe able to get like 105 on the trade. If it's at 88 right now, maybe you're going to get 80, okay? Maybe even the high 70s. So it's not always the best thing to play as far as physical metals go. It's much easier to play if you're doing stocks, mining stocks, or ETFs. I don't recommend putting a lot of money into that, but that is a place you can do it. Another way you can play it is looking at like Glint, Kinesis, or One Gold. There's very low premiums on those services, and you can move in and out. It probably will trigger a taxable event doing that. So you just need to be careful of what you're doing there, especially if you're doing large amounts of money. That's all, potentially reportable. And that is going to maybe not make it worth as much or as good of an idea if you have that. The way I play the ratios is I just buy more depending on the time. So right now I've been buying more silver because the ratio is still pretty high. Once we get below, I would say 75, I won't be buying quite as much silver as I have been. I'll be buying a little bit more gold. And as we get down to, say, 50, at that point, it's probably more advisable to be picking up some gold. Your silver is going to get super expensive. Okay, side hustles are very easy to do, especially if you have the time. That's the problem, is the time. You also have got to have the skill for it, too. Okay, let's see what else we said. Yeah, I kept moving the time around. That's probably why the notifications didn't go off. Sorry about that. Richie Crash, that went off real fast too. So yeah, prior to 2000, I get an ounce of silver for $4.50. A lot of my silver originally that I got were $half, I think for my 8th birthday. And I don't think they were worth too much more than the $half. Maybe they're worth about $1 for a $half. if I remember right. So, but I don't know where those went. They kind of disappeared. Silver Heist is in the house. Welcome. Hopefully I'll be connecting with Silver Heist this month and we'll do a little short video for you guys. So I think it's good to stack for weight only, as long as you have the motivation to keep going with it. If it gets boring, then I definitely think it's something you want to spice up a little bit. Depending on how big your stack is, you may want to start buying a few fun things. And I think that's okay to do. I wouldn't stop you guys from doing that. However, there are people that are, well, I'll show you this post. All right. I can't find that housing thing. I don't know what happened to that, but, it was pretty good. But let me show you another post. One of the problems is when you get a lot of your news stuff from X, it goes so fast. Okay, from David Bateman, I wanted to show you guys this though. He bought $800 million worth of silver. Okay, that's going to load. Maybe internet's not working as good out here. Okay, let me show you guys this. He's been posting like crazy, so let's see. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I can't find his post either. It's just too far. Anyway, go check out David Bateman on X if you guys have done so. Go follow him. Anyway, he was talking about his $800 million in silver that he just picked up, basically a delivery from the COMEX in 1,000-ounce bars, COMEX bars. I think it was May, is already worth $1.2 billion. So that's what he's doing. He sees a collapse that's coming in. All right, favorite mining stocks. I'll show you guys a picture since you're all on here. All right, let's do this real quick. So these are my favorite mining stocks right here. And I purchased these on May 9th. And you can see that there. You guys can look at those. They've all done really well since May 9th. I wish I put a lot more money into it. I'm much more heavy into physical than I am into stocks, but I'm going to be changing that. I'll be buying a lot more mining stocks here pretty soon. But look at that. I mean, those are incredible returns since May. And it's not like they're too high now and I need to sell them. These things are going to go a lot higher. We're just getting started. These have just barely started waking up this year. And let's see. I'd have to double look at it. That might be year to date on those. I forget. But they're way up. And the reason I like these is these are pretty stable. These are ones that are going to be safer to put more money into. You can get into some of the exploration companies. Those could potentially be like 20 plus X on whatever you put into them, but they could also fizzle and not really go anywhere. If you guys want more information on that, there's a link down below to my Slice mentorship, and that's where we go into stocks. We go into more strategies around this, and you have access to me to ask me personal questions, to go through things. There's also a one-on-one that can be set up through that. And then there'll be some private live streams happening there pretty soon too. Anyway, that's another way you guys can go to get more of this information, really figure out what's going on, ask me those questions and dive into it. Let's see. Yeah, I like dime bags the best too, but I do have I've got a guard house box of dimes, quarters, and half dollars. But I like the dimes the most, and I tend to just keep piling up on those. All right, we're way past, so I'm going to try to go up a little faster here. Yeah, so on the Platinum Dentist, 2 ounces I think is fine. It's fun to just have it, right? You can go get some rhodium, you can go get some palladium, but you're going to have a hard time selling them back. A few friends were just talking about osmium. That's another metal you can get into. I don't know a whole lot about it. I have seen it. It's pretty sparkly stuff, but there's not a big market for it. So it's something I stay away from. But it could be a fun thing to hold and just have, and maybe it'll become worth a ton of money for you someday. For me, though, I look at liquidity. When I buy something, I have my exit strategy in mind, and I know that I'm going to unload it at some point. Now, I don't recommend as a stacker to, there's not like a date, or there's not like a specific point in the market we get to where it's just unload everything. If you're a stacker, that's not the case. I don't want my money in the bank. I don't want my money in dollars. And so for that reason, I'm stacking into metals when I can. I like to be out of debt. Debt free is key too. So if you're doing it that way, what it really comes down to is when you're selling is if you bought a certain amount to play the market a little bit. So for example, if you bought a bunch of these mining stocks, there's going to be a time where the mining stocks start to get clobbered. And what that will most likely be is oil prices. Right now, people are looking at about a $300 to $350 oil price that's going to come out of this gold bull run. And when you get to that point, it's going to become super expensive to be mining the metals, and it's going to start to affect the price. So miners, I don't hold on to forever. That's something that I'm going to be selling out of. Excuse me. Products like large bars too. As the price starts getting higher, I'll probably swap those into smaller coinage. And then the other thing is if you put a high percentage of your net worth into metals, you probably will get to a point where you feel like you'd rather have cash flow than just holding on to something that continues to appreciate. And you'll want to swap some of that into property that can cash flow for you guys. And so there'll be other charts that we'll go through and want to cover on that to make sure that you're ready for that. Right now is a great time to keep stacking gold. And for me, I'm holding off on real estate a little bit. But I am looking at some potential projects that could do really well that are more on the high end side. But as far as buying little homes and stuff like that, some people are saying, hey, go ahead and do that now because their rates are going to go lower and you can refinance it. I would only do that if you're getting a cap rate of 6 or 7%. If you're not, forget it. And if you don't know what a cap rate is, go study that. You have to make sure it cash flows for you today. But keep in mind, you're taking on a property, you're taking on headaches. You are getting cash flow, but what happens if we get into 10 or 20% inflation? Now your 6, 7% cap rate is going to mean nothing, especially if gold continues to go up. So right now is not the time where I'm looking to hurry and jump into a ton of real estate. And that was a tangent, but sorry, guys. Platinum does have very, very high premiums, so you got to watch out for that. You got to watch out for this too. What's going to happen if they really start pushing electric cars and people don't own cars as much anymore? Will we have fewer cars on the road, or we have more cars on the road? How much platinum goes into an EV? Okay. And I think it's actually more than it goes into a regular car. So I would say platinum probably is going to continue to be in high demand. Yeah, I hope this happens. IRS is not... The IRS for individuals is not a good idea. It makes no sense to penalize someone on income and production. All that does is it hinders an economy and it slows down growth and productivity, and it also slows down innovation and investing. I'm hoping that we get rid of the income tax and that the IRS gets repositioned to mainly focus just on businesses. The Fed, all they do is create bubbles and busts. They really aren't helping at all. And I'd like to see them disappear and go away. I think it would really help a lot. And if we can get to the point where those two organizations go away, I think you're going to see a huge amount of prosperity. And then if we can go back to a gold standard, then stacking is going to be a different thing. At that point, I'm going to be going heavy into real estate. You're not going to have these big swings in your gold and silver. I wouldn't get rid of all of it, but and this all depends. If everything's gone to a stable coin, and there's no way to easily buy your gold or silver back, I don't know. I'll have to figure that out when if that happens. Michael, welcome. Good to see you. Rob's all in on silver. I think silver is huge, guys. Definitely recommend that. Let's see, Matt. Yes, it once was more valuable than gold, but it's just not monetized or anyone even aware of these days. Yes, I agree. So I would not go heavy into platinum, but I do think it's something that could give you some good returns on it, right? So it's kind of like buying a junior, not even a junior miner, but an exploration company. They haven't even found gold yet. They just have the rights to dig around and poke holes in a piece of land. And if they find it, then it's really good, and they could turn around and sell it to a junior or to a one of the larger mining companies, a major even. And you can make a ton of money off of it. But if they don't find it in the drill holes and they run out of capital, your money's gone. So you won't have that with platinum, but I would be careful with platinum as far as going too crazy with it. Silver Ice says we've got to bring back the diesel hatchback. Yeah, my friend had a thing. It was pretty cool back in the day. All right, I'm going to go a little faster here for you guys. Yeah, income tax is stupid. I hate it. I pay like 40% income tax, guys, here in California. It sucks. And it is not good. So I could do so much more productivity. I could do so much more with this channel if all my money wasn't getting sucked in by the government. And because it's California, I don't have so much extra money. I can just go buy a ton of properties and then, depreciate it. I wish I made it a couple $1 million a year, but I don't. Yes, this is the case, Metal Mobster. I only do it when I have to. It's only when it's an emergency where I've got some kind of medical thing for one of my kids, and sometimes those cascade 3 or 4 in a row, and I get to a point where I basically need to sell some to kind of shore things up because they've taken out my cash reserves. So my rule of thumb is always been to have 30% of your investable income in cash. I've already taken that down to like 10% because of the metal prices and how fast things are moving up. But you do want to have at least a month, if not 2 months worth of cash on hand for expenses, for emergencies, rainy days. You don't want to have to sell your metals when you don't want to. And you want to replenish that pretty quickly. And sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But it's all about how you buy things. Okay. My grandfather's a very successful banker, and and in real estate. And with real estate, it's location, location, location. I'll tell you that. With banking and with investing, it is, there's 2 rules of thumb. One is pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Okay. If you feel greedy, either keep holding long-term because you don't care, or 2, you better start looking at selling stuff, because if you're feeling that greedy, that's usually when markets turn on you. Now, we're nowhere near close to that with gold and silver. Are we going to have ups and downs? Yes, we're going to have those, but I don't see us going back down to $1,600 gold right now unless something completely falls apart in the whole market and the United States gets devastated. And if that happens, everything else has gone way further down, and we're in a very, very deep deflationary depression. And if that happens, you're still going to be glad you have your gold and silver, even if you bought it at this price. Okay. Just because it goes down there doesn't mean that that's what it would buy in today's value. It could potentially buy 2 to 4 times as much as what $1,600 is. Okay. It could still basically be equivalent or even higher than what you've paid for it today as far as purchase power. Those are crazy economic models to get into, but crazy things can happen in those situations. But I don't anticipate that happening because we have a money printer and we can do things digitally, and we have all of these cryptos. My guess is they would just basically put us into hyperinflation before that happened, or if it did happen, they would get us out of it due to hyperinflation. Yeah, gains are good. Definitely look at that, guys. Buying a graded MS 65 $20 St. Gaudens tomorrow for just like $100 over spot price. That's great. Now, a couple things I'll tell you guys on this real quick too. Pre-33 gold is my favorite kind of gold to buy. It's historical. They're not making any more of it. I mostly buy graded. And when prices were higher, 61, 62 mints would be the best thing to do right now, where prices are pretty darn low. If you can get them for about $100 over spot, or spot, or $100 over spot, go for like a MS 64, 65, excuse me. Those are great grades. You won't regret it down the road, in my opinion. Pre-33 gold right now is something that people don't like, just like they don't like constitutional or junk silver for whatever reason. They're turning that stuff in. These things will be way more valuable down the road when we get to a situation of either the fear of confiscation, heavy taxation of bullion, okay, like a windfall type tax, or we're needing to use things for bartering. Now, that would be the constitutional silver. You're not going to barter with one of these things. You would hold on to it or pass it to your kids or grandkids after things reestablish and get better again. But these are way low. I mean, I bought a little early into a lot of pre-33 gold, and I have made money on it, but it's only gone up like maybe 20% versus the gold's doubled. Okay. So I kind of wish I had more bullion and I could flip it into it right now. I'll end up doing okay, but those are all much longer long-term holds now. You win some of these games, you lose some of them, you learn. That's why I got this channel. Hopefully it's helping you guys. But right now is the time to be buying pre-33 gold if you like it. I would be buying that in gold buffaloes and then maybe 10th ounce eagles. That's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm not really looking at buying anything else unless the price is 4 or 5% below spot. Then I don't care what it is. I can always flip it into something later. All right. Let's see what else you guys have in here. So we'll cover this tomorrow with Andy, and we're going to cover BRICS too. So there's a lot of stuff going on with BRICS, and with Andy, we'll cover some of that off tomorrow because it is going to affect things. I still very much believe that we're going to see the BRICS do something to the United States in a way that is going to be painful for us. And if you have got gold and silver, you'll be okay. But our dollars might get hammered a bit. Let me see if I can find this post over here. Okay, this kind of goes with this comment that's up there right now. We got the two guys kind of fighting each other. But I'll have to see if I can find the other one in a minute. But with BRICS, we are at risk with it, right? One of the reasons this is happening here is what's happening is China is trying to buy up as much gold as they can and silver. And so they're offering a higher price so that people will move it from the west to the east. And then it's stuck in China and it can't leave. They're also not allowing any of their gold to leave the country. That tells me that they are planning on backing their currency with gold. The fact the central banks are only buying gold, they're not buying cryptocurrencies right now, or at least not in any kind of large quantity. And most of them haven't really started buying silver yet. That tells me that they also see a reset coming. So otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. There's no other reason to do that. So I don't know. This is a hard one with Bitcoin, guys. Here's what I'll tell you. We're at the top. Okay. We have about 6 months to maybe a year left of the Bitcoin halving cycle. Could it be extended a little bit longer till the end of next year? It could, potentially. Bitcoin really only goes up in two points. One is when there's a lot of liquidity entering the market, so quantitative easing that's going on, money printing. Or two, Tether is sucking up all of the US debt and then turning around and buying a bunch of Bitcoin. Okay. Those are really the only two ways that you really see Bitcoin really jumping. And the last couple of years, we've had a tightening, and you haven't seen so much. That's where Tether's come in to kind of boost things. And then you've got Michael Saylor that's come in with MicroStrategy and a bunch of investors and kind of talked people into raising it up. You've got a couple countries that are using it as a currency, and that's brought it up too. Could you see Bitcoin hit 1 million or multi-million in coins? Yes, you could. I think it probably will happen because I tend to believe that it's probably a product that's going to get rug pulled from people at some point. I don't own very much of it. Very, very little bit. Okay. Like sats. I own some sats, not very much stuff. And most of them are on either silver or brass coins. Okay. They're like little wallets. If I came across a bunch of money, would I buy some Bitcoin? I'd probably buy some Bitcoin just as a hedge against maybe I'm wrong. And that does take off more. Why do I think it's going to go up? I think it is a tool to, okay, central banks are buying gold and all these other people are buying cryptos and Bitcoin. I think, who controls what? Well, the really powerful people on this planet control the central banks. They're not buying the crypto, they're buying the gold. So, I mean, I would take it for what that's worth. But If I were them and I were trying to put a plan in place to change the whole world's financial system, I'd create something that basically allowed me to pull the plug at some point. And I know people could get in arguments all day long on you can't do that to Bitcoin, but you can. I can give you about 20 ways that you can do it. It doesn't mean you can't own it. It doesn't mean that it's a horrible investment or that it's something bad to have. It's just that there's a lot of risk to it. You don't hold it. You don't own it. It's not something physical you can bury in the ground or you can keep on your person. There's some great use cases for it. If all of a sudden you had to leave the United States or your country and go to another country, it's much easier to move that than it is for gold. I do think you're going to see the two merge at some point to a degree. I think you're going to see gold, a fair amount of gold and silver get tokenized so that it can move from place to place very quickly, different countries, different locations. And that's going to be an interesting play, especially if they let you pick up the physical and utilize that. I don't know exactly how they're going to do that in that mechanism. Where you're seeing more of the tokenization is things like potentially Glint and One Gold, where it's vaulted. Okay, and I'm not saying that those guys are doing that. I'm just saying a use case like that where you can invest into a vaulting facility or service, and they can show you on the blockchain that the gold is there or the silver is there, and it is it's not moving, right? Take it for what it's worth. But as far as an ETF goes, ETFs are I don't love ETFs because you don't actually hold the asset when you have an ETF. This is most of these are good ETFs because they're spot ETFs. So that means they hold at least the Bitcoin, but you don't get it. So, but where it is good is it's a pain in the butt. I've got like a special computer just for my crypto. Excuse me. That's all it's used for. And it's a pain in the butt. If I die on a plane crash or something like that, my wife will never be able to get the crypto out of the thing. She'll never figure out how to do it. So it's a little bit of a risk. If I start to put more money into that, I'll have to get a custodian that can help her get access to it and be able to get into it, someone that we trust. ETF, you can avoid that. And so for that reason, maybe it's better to do some ETF stuff for that. It's not the libertarian tool it used to be. I was huge into Bitcoin before I was into gold. And then once they kind of captured it and BlackRock got involved, I wasn't as happy about it. All right. Sorry, so much of that stuff. Let's see what you guys have. Yeah, I agree with that. And I agree with that too. But you guys, just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's not good and it can't make you a bunch of money to go buy more gold and silver. You just have to understand it a little bit more. I can tell you though, if Bitcoin goes below 60,000, it's probably going to crash really hard. MicroStrategy will probably crash it. All right, let's see what else you guys have in here. All right, so for those of you that want to reach me, it's stackingsurfer@gmail.com is my email, so you guys can send me an email. If you want more communication with me, if you guys want to get a hold of me on a regular basis, the Slice program, mentor program down below, there's a discount code for it, but you can join that. You can see my trades. You can see some of the things that I'm putting on that platform. I'll continue to show you guys what I'm doing and talk about, things that I've picked up. I haven't put my post in there from this weekend yet on the silver I've picked up. I need to do that. But that's another way to kind of pick my brain on things. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's also an invisible tax to you guys. The Fed has said, hey, let's keep this 2% inflation rate going. That's BS. You don't need 2% inflation. You don't need any inflation. If anything, you want a little bit of deflation, like 2% deflation, so everybody gets wealthier. The whole thing's rigged. Fractional reserve lending is a joke. Our banking systems are jokes. It doesn't mean that people that are bankers are a joke. It doesn't mean that they're all evil, bad. It's the way the system's set up, guys. But a 30-year mortgage is a joke. Okay, you're going to pay almost all of the interest in the first 7 to 10 years, and most people refinance or they move in 7 to 10 years. So even if you have a 3 or 2.5 or 2.8% mortgage, go look at it. The first year that you're paying, you're probably paying a lot more than that. Okay, I don't have an amortization schedule in front of me to look at it exactly, but you would be paying a significantly higher percentage rate those first several years. That's why they amortize it. So it's not easy to figure it out. You've got to go look at a schedule and you got to figure it out. Car loans are simple interest. You pay the same amount of interest every month. Homes are different. So be very careful. If you've got a 30-year mortgage, pay that thing off faster. Send in extra principal payments every month. Make sure they're listed as principal payments so that you get that thing down. Definitely do that. I mean, I'm tempted to sell this place and just go buy a bunch of silver and gold, but I can't get the family to do it. They're like, no, we want to have a house still. Let's see. Be careful with glance add in fees. Anytime you're vaulting, whether it's metals or it's one of the services, or you're doing an ETF or a mutual fund, you need to look at the fees that are coming out of there, and you need to look and see how much is coming out on those fees. Okay, you're probably better off in most of those having gold right now than silver, because gold is going up quite a bit more than silver has been. Percentage wise, in a lot of ways, I think silver may get a little closer towards the end of the year, but still gold's been beating it out. You're going to be paying fees for vaulting, and you need to make sure that those fees aren't going to eat up all your profits. Okay. But these can be good things to kind of replace a checking account. They can be things that replace a debit account. It may work for you. It may not work for you guys. Okay, let's see what else you got here. So the GSR is just a guideline to show you guys a little bit, to give you kind of an indicator of, is it better to buy gold or silver? That's all it is. Okay. Now, I wouldn't play it and try to swap it very much. It's kind of just you can make money doing it. You can double your stack every so many years going back and forth, but it's a lot of work, and you've got to have ways, especially if it's physical. You've got to have ways of unloading that's not going to eat you up in a bunch of capital gains taxes at 28%. Excuse me. And then premium fees going back and forth. It's very rare that we go above 100 on the GSR. It's also very rare we're going to go below 50 in modern times. Okay. So, can you play it? Well, I can tell you that if we get down to like a 10 GSR, everybody should probably swap it into gold. But if it's that low, maybe no one believes in gold right at the moment, and everybody believes in silver. I don't know. So it's kind of hard to make those decisions too and swap everything from one to the next. So I just use it as a buy indicator more than anything. It can be seized. We have a vault here in Santa Monica that the FBI showed up and they took all this gold and silver out of it because supposedly one of the people was bad. Those people still don't have their gold and silver, and I want to say that was like 2018 or something like that. It's not to say don't vault. If you have like $1 million of gold and silver, do not put it in your house. You probably want to put it in like 4 places. So, spread things out a little bit, spread your risk out. I wouldn't keep it very much at your house. I would vault it. And I do vaulting, so I'm not against that. But you want to find private places. You want to find places that are less likely to get raided by the FBI. The place I like to use, they do FBI background checks first before they before they call back anybody. There's other big vaulting facilities where you're not going to have problems like that, like the BRICS facilities. However, if there is a gold confiscation, it's more likely to be at those facilities than at your house. They never came to anybody's house, by the way, but if they're going to confiscate things, it's probably going to be the stock market, cryptos, large bullion vaults. But it's all relative to what you guys have. If you've got $10,000, $20,000 of metals at your house, probably not a big deal. But if you had $5 million, probably can't sleep at night. Yeah. So I think it's a good thing to do. You can do that for sure. I don't know. You're going to make me do a calculator. By the way, that's a relative term. So, all right. 60 kilograms. It's a good amount, yeah. So 60 kilograms of silver is going to be just short of 2,000 ounces. I think it's good. I don't think it's too much. I'm kind of the rule of thumb that I think a good goal for gold is to get to 100 ounces, and I think for silver is to get to 5,000 ounces. Some people may even want to go to 10,000 ounces of silver. It's all relative to what you have to protect and how much are things. Where I live, and this is not to brag because I wish it wasn't the case, but the condo here is $1.2 million. You can't find anything for less than that. You can't find a one-bedroom apartment to rent for less than $1,500 to $1,800. And that's a bedroom within an apartment. And sometimes you have a roommate in your bedroom. Crap is super expensive here. So you got to have more money to shore things up. I know there's places you can live in the United States and you can buy a house for $300,000, $400,000. So is it a lot of silver? 60 kilograms, you're probably not carrying that out very easily. So yeah, it's a lot of silver, but I know people that have 10,000 ounces. I know people that are struggling to get 5 ounces. So it's all relative to what your situation is and what you guys need to do. To me, gold is wealth insurance. Silver is for, eating and expenses, things along those lines. So it's a lot. I think it's a good, if you're at that much, I think that's awesome. And if you're that high and you have no gold, I would recommend buying gold. Personally, I can't give you guys financial advice on here, right? None of this is financial advice. I got disclaimers all over the place. But if you've got over 1,000 ounces of silver and you have 0 gold, go get some gold, in my opinion. So I guess I can't tell you to go get some gold. I would consider that, and I would look into why do people have gold. I know a lot of people are just heavy silver. And yeah, silver could way outperform gold, but gold has a different purpose. And I think there'll be some times where you start to see that ratio continue to go down. And then you say, hey, I'm glad I have some gold, but I'm not going to get any more. Or you might say, hey, I'm going to start buying some more gold because I've got all this silver I can flip into it if you want to do that. Palladium coins, if you want to buy 1 or 2 of them to have them, that's cool. I would get them graded though, because my wife will think they're silver and she'll get rid of them. I don't mean she's getting rid of silver. I mean, if I'm gone, it'll be easy for her to not know what it is. I don't play into those metals. I mean, that's something you guys can go after. But let's say when you have 2,000 ounces of silver, you can consider playing around with platinum and palladium. If you're less than that, I wouldn't bother with it, personally. All right, let's see what else you got. I don't know what this means. You'll have to tell me what you mean by consolidation. If you mean the price is consolidating, no, it's breaking out. So you'll have to tell me what that means there. Yeah, I agree. It's wonderful. It's when you can't put it in a backpack and run away, you're doing well. So how much lead do you need to protect your gold and silver investments? Thousands of rounds. That's what I would say. You better know how to shoot, and you better go to the range a lot, and you have a good eye. As I told my husband, I've actually done really well on a couple small ones when I was a Boy Scout. I did end up getting an eagle and a bunch of palms. Time we did skeet shooting, I got all the adults and everybody else, and then when I went to pheasant hunting, I never had any pheasants left to eat because when they came out 2 feet in front of me, I disintegrated them. I didn't get asked to go pheasant hunting again after that one. But yeah, I would have a fair amount of that. Okay, let's see. I'm still way behind here. Okay, let's see. Okay, this I did not know. This is cool. So when you own First Majestic mining stock, you can save 50 cents an ounce for First Mint bars and rounds, which is silver from First Majestic. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So that's something to look at. A couple of those stocks also have dividends that you can definitely take advantage of the dividends and reinvest them, which is good as well. All right, let's see. Yep, that was David Bateman. So go check his stuff out. He's doing a lot of stuff on X lately. So I sold my Queen's Beast Completer gold coins, 2 of them, and turned it into 3 gold buffaloes. And I was okay with that because I didn't love the Queen's Beast Completer coin in gold. It was almost too small to see it. I did get a 10-ounce silver version of that, which I like because I could see it in more detail. And turning 2 coins into 3 is great, especially when I bought those 2 coins for less than a gold buffalo. Oh, I don't know what that means. That doesn't look good. It's either a flood or a tear. So let's see what else you got. Yeah, the other thing I'll just put out there, guys, when you're doing this stuff is try not to have too many different types of ammunition, right? You're better off just having 1 or 2, maybe 3 if you're doing shotguns. So look out for that. But there's a lot of cool shows. I've got a friend that goes out to Vegas and gets stuff. So it could be, guys. I think 5,000 is the starting point. Honestly, I think we're going to see $50,000 gold at some point revalued. I do think they have to burn off all of the debt, and they'll basically just issue a whole bunch of fiat to pay everybody off that they owe money to, reset the currency at some point. I do think that's going to come. So I just don't know where they're going to start doing it. So they could do it at 5,000, they could do it at 10, they could do it at any number they want to. But once they start doing that, why would they not keep doing it every so often? Maybe quarterly or half a year or every other year. All right, let's see what else we got in here from you guys. All right, I'll have to go check it. I don't know why it's got too many on there. Sorry, guys. I'll have to go check and see. Maybe one of the settings got whacked out there. All right, let's see. We got Joseph Lopez in the house, and we've got Space Miner. Welcome, guys. And Born Hunting. Ran into this guy down at the beach, and he was doing the metal detector. So hopefully he's found a couple of fun things down there. All right. A little bit. We still have inflation. I don't care what the CPI comes out this week. We still have inflation going on. I can still see it in the market. I can still see the things going up in price. Inflation isn't going to go away until they really start sucking money out and they really raise interest rates, which they're not going to do because they'll break everything. What should be happening is we should be going up higher on interest rates, not down. Going down is going to break things and it's going to cause problems. So, anytime I see a kid on X, I should ignore them, but I leave a comment when they are so excited that their crypto is going to go to the moon because interest rates are going down. I don't think they understand what's about to happen. Maybe you guys don't either. We're going to cover a lot of that tomorrow with Andy Schectman. All right. Well, property tax is unrealized capital gains when the government ever cared about the law. Yeah, exactly. So property taxes should go away too. The property taxes are horrible. You spend all this time paying a house off, and then if you can't make a payment or you're sick or in a coma, or let's just say we go up to a Coke being $1 trillion and all of a sudden you owe a ton more money in property tax because they just keep jacking the price up of your house. We could get to a point where that might be what they mean, what Klaus Schwab and World Economic Forum meant when they said you'll own nothing to be happy. It might be the property taxes go so high that everybody has to dump their house. That's what gold's for. Okay. Might help you out of that. Let's see here. Look, the U.S. national debt clock is cool, but it's not run by a supreme being, right? So these are just people that are trying to figure things out. It's kind of like the whole Q movement. We don't exactly know everybody that's behind all that stuff, but it's a momentum, it's a belief, it's a thing that's kind of pushed out there to go by. But I wouldn't take it as it's not the Bible. But they do have some pretty cool points there. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'd say Darth Wanker, good one. But it's a pirate. It should be Darth Vader. Does anybody have an emergency barter silver copper kind of like emergency cash fund? Yeah, totally. I think probably most of the people on here do. Honestly, I think my rule of thumb is for every $50,000 in net worth you have, get an ounce of gold. For every person in your household, start with at least $100 face of constitutional or junk silver, and then go to 200, and then go to 300, and then go to 400, and then go to 500. If you can get all the way up to 1,000, great. But that's what I'd keep going by. In the meantime, as you find other coins to kind of shore up wealth, I think American Silver Eagles are great. American coinage is my favorite right now because I think they're going to write the tax laws in a way that will exempt that, but it may not exempt the foreign stuff. Now, I haven't gotten rid of my foreign stuff, but I'm just not buying as much of that anymore. Copper, I do have some copper. I picked up all of mine from the Wounded Warrior Project, doing some donations at the end of last year. I think I bought like a tube of copper rounds and stuff. Will those go up in value? They probably will, and they'll probably have, some good use cases for it. But I wouldn't go too heavy in copper because it just takes up so much space. Silver takes up a ton of space too. So it really depends on how much you have. But for an emergency fund, totally. All right. I say do both. So here's what I tell you guys. You got to take vacations. You got to live life. Okay. You got to replace your car every once in a while. If you're thinking that you're going to save all this gold and silver and food storage and water, and you're going to be completely perfect and you're going to be planned for every scenario that's going to happen, you're kidding yourself. If you don't have a relationship with God, you got to go get that. Okay. That's a huge thing to go get. Because if you don't have it today, you'll eventually develop it when things get rough enough. What I would recommend in this sense here is you do the best you can. You put a plan in place and you work towards it. And then part of that needs to be having fun. Okay. My daughter is in college, and she's actually got health issues. So she's moved home from college, and she's now here back at the house, and she's doing community college. Which one benefit of California is it's only $1,000 a year for community college. So it's very inexpensive. She'll get her generals out of the way, but she was cheerleading on the East Coast and went to Daytona for the big annual competition there. And she was able to compete up against, I forget the team, but it's the team that's on Netflix that's the big deal. And so she was so excited to be able to do that. I flew out with my wife and her twin that was going to school out this way. And we stopped for a couple of days at Disney World. I know some people hate Disney, think it's completely evil. It's been something I've grown up with. We don't spend a ton of money there, but we do go there every once in a while. We spent a couple of days at Disney World, but the key is to feel like you're on a $10,000 vacation for maybe just a couple $1,000s. And so you gotta do things like, I travel a bunch for work, so I get points. So I get to get my airfare for free. I get to get hotels for free. And then you find a way to get a package for different things to reduce the cost of tickets and things like that too. Or if you're going to Hawaii, find an Airbnb that's a good price, or, find someone with a timeshare that you can buddy up with. So I say do both. Have the good vacation, but make it less expensive, and then stack the metals. But you got to enjoy life too. You don't want to get to the point where you've stacked all these metals and then what you were planning on saving those for doesn't quite happen the way you planned it, or it takes another 20 or 30 years after that. And you didn't enjoy life. So you got to do that. All right, let's see what we got here. Well, that was last week. So let me show you guys that. Let's see where we're at there. Okay, I got to pull that one up. And we'll look at Hecla for you guys. HCL. All right. So, yeah, let's just... All right. This right here. All right, guys. So, 1 minute. 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 1 That's not the right one though, is it? I guess that's the right one. Anyway, there you go. Last month, it's gone up 34%. And in the last week, it's gone up 13%. Is it too late? Nope, not too late. But anytime you're buying stocks like this, you want to look for the little pullbacks. Okay, so are we going back down to here? Probably not. But see all these little pullbacks? Every time you see those little pullbacks, that's the times you want to be picking it up. So right now it looks like we're starting to pull back a little bit here on the daily here, right? So you got to kind of watch for it a little bit there too. You got to look at the earnings. You've got to look at when maybe they've just reported earnings. I didn't have time to look at it today yet. But on both of those, you're early. So if it's a baseball game, you're like in the second or third inning for mining stocks. So I expect Hecla to go like 3x that, maybe even 5x where they're at now. Well, at least 3x where they're at now. So is it too early? Or is it too late? No, it's not too late. In my opinion, not financial advice. Go do your own homework. But I'm planning on buying a bunch of the stuff, a bunch more mining stocks and metals in the next little while here. But look for the patterns. Look for little pullbacks on when you can do stuff in dollar cost average in case there is a bigger pullback. I mean, look, we don't know what the Fed's going to do. We think the Fed's going to lower rates. They could actually do like a 0.5 point cut. And if they do that, it's going to seem really bullish to a lot of people, but it also would indicate that there's a massive problem with the market. That could hit a lot of things, especially the stock market. So, sometimes what you're going to see is, big hype with the news of what's coming out. And then once it's executed, people sell too. So I'm still buying them. Prices are wild, Chris. Yes, they are. Yeah, so he bought pallets worth of COMEX bars that were delivered. So he actually maybe tried to cause a little bit of a silver squeeze himself. He's one person that could actually do that. What does Andy make of refinery backlog and collapsing buyback prices on junk silver? I don't know. It's a good question, Silver Heist. We'll have to ask him tomorrow. What I do know is that because he does hedge his silver and gold, he's able to buy. And the prices he buys back at are the best I've seen around. So if you are needing to sell, definitely look at Andy. You can reach him at Miles Franklin. Well, let's just put it out there. You guys can hit him up here. Just let him know Sacking Surfer sent you. But anyway, he definitely buys and he sells, and he's got good prices. Okay, let's see where else we're at here. So I believe there'll be a day where you cannot. I believe there's going to be a day where cash is gone. And when cash goes away, I think you're going to be stuck with a stable coin. And I think people that are heavy in crypto are going to be sad, because at that point, the only thing they can trade into is a stable coin. And all you need to do is get some bad people into the White House or into Congress or the Treasury, and they can turn that stable coin very easily into a CBDC. It won't be a CBDC, but it'll act like one. And everything's on a public ledger, so that's not awesome. And it can be programmed. Okay, as a person that's in software, it can be programmed. The only real difference between a stablecoin and a CBDC is one's produced by a central bank and the other one's produced by a third-party company that the government basically commissions. It cannot be done by the U.S. Treasury. That would be unconstitutional and it would be completely illegal. That's why we don't have Federal Reserve. Our notes say Federal Reserve on them. They don't say U.S. Treasury. Okay. Even the gold certificates and silver certificates are pretty sketchy and gray area. Those probably shouldn't have existed either. Let's see what else you guys got real quick, and then we'll wind down here in a minute. I do think there's a high probability of this. So from my research, the company I work for does a lot with the SWIFT system, and being in banking and finance, I do have XRP and I have XLM. I did buy it at 50 cents and stuff a while back. Could these end up going big? They could. And I think it could be the rails that runs a lot of stuff on it. Now, on the flip side, owning these things is kind of like owning the guillotine to a degree, because I think these things are going to help shore up the financial system, but I also think they move us in the wrong direction. However, they could be backed by gold as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if these things become benign, if they become kind of a system that holds us to accountable, makes it hard to use stuff, or do they make things more liquid? One of the use cases for HBAR, and it could be XRP to a degree, is going to be things like a house title. You could have a house that's on the blockchain, you could sell it quickly using cryptocurrency. And you could also have a lot of things that are tokenized. So that's a whole nother thing that we're getting to. I don't love the idea of it from self-sovereignty and from privacy, but from a transaction, an investment, or a loan perspective, it's amazing what can be done with it. So time will tell if it's a good or bad thing. All right, let's see what else you guys have in here. So some, not really fuel or food, but I do need to do more of that. Precious metals, we've got some pretty good connections out here in California. Food and fuels are harder to come by out this way, but I think those are also very good connections to have. If you're comfortable with talking to people, I think it's always great to find out if they're interested in, bartering with silver. You don't have to disclose you have a ton of silver, but you may say, hey, do people ever bring you silver coins and trade you for that? If you're a person that provides services or you have a business and you can afford to accept silver or gold, I would totally do that. I'm a W-2 employee. I can't do that. But for a side business, I would totally do that. Or if it's your main business and you're self-employed and you can take it, I would take that. All right, let's see what else you got in here. Yeah, that did come up, I think, on Yankees. If you guys go watch Yankees live stream today, I think they hit some of that. All right, let's see what else you guys got. So, also know this. They're about 6 years in arrears from what is mined out of the ground to the demand for industrial use for silver. So if everybody that owns silver decided to stop selling it and just held it, the price would have to continue to go up, because the only place that they would be able to get it from would be from us. And if we all held on to it, the price would just keep going up. People are unloading it, though, unfortunately, because they don't have enough cash. They have a bunch of silver potentially, and they're just having to get rid of it. That's what China's doing. It's arbitrage. China's buying up the silver and gold because they can, and they just keep printing their own crappy currency too. I don't know. People keep taking it. We keep taking dollars, right? Businesses keep using the dollars. They just keep printing the stuff. And what you're going to see as we get closer to the end of the fiat system, and it's going to be global this time, not just one country. What you're going to see is, and those other things were global, but this is really a much more encompassing global instead of just an area of the world. You're going to see a lot of printing going on towards the end of the system. So when you really see the printers turn on, we're getting close to it. And the reason they're doing that is they're trying to buy up as much assets as they can, and then eventually they'll just unload them. Or no one will take them anymore, and they'll be stuck with what they've got. Yeah, you're going to see some major stuff probably happen this week, so definitely watch out. Yeah, 2% inflation, stupid, but it's also not real. So, all right, let's see what else you guys got. Yeah, so you have this too. Now, part of this has to do with expenses. If we got up to $1,000 silver, I guarantee you, you're going to see silver mines spinning up all over the place, and they're going to start to go back into the old ones. Now, I forget how to pronounce the right term, but it's like I'm not even going to attempt it. But silver is a metal that's at the top of the crust. Okay, so most of the easy stuff is gone. It's been consumed. So it does get more expensive to go down. Epithermic, I think, is maybe the term. So there's still silver around, but there's not as much. And because of that, the price is a little bit more expensive and all that stuff. Can we get back down to a different ratio? Possibly, but or can we get up to a different ratio? But it's all going to depend on the price, and it's going to depend on price of oil, and can they turn them up or not? Yeah, if you've got crypto, cold wallets are good to use, but you need to know what you're doing. There's lots of people that will teach you how to do that and put courses out there. My rule of thumb is do not put any money into crypto that you can't lose 100% of, okay? Because it can go to zero. And the way it can go to zero is you lose it, okay? More people lose their crypto or transfer it to the wrong place and lose it that way, or in their hardware wallet, or they pass away and the other people don't know how to deal with it. So don't put money in there that you can't afford to lose. And if all of a sudden that becomes worth tons more than your gold and silver because Bitcoin goes skyrocketing up, I would start selling some of that, putting it into the metals. The metals at the end of the day, I think, are the end game. I do not think it's the crypto. Yeah, you can always bury it, guys. And you can have lots of boating accidents. I think a lot of people do. All right, fine. Okay, so there's the rule of thumb, guys. For a kilo. Hide it so the satellites don't spot it. All right, I wouldn't be too worried about the satellites. If we get down to the point where the satellites are looking for gold and silver, they probably have ways of noticing if you have a safe too. So they might even be able to see if metal's in the ground. Like I wouldn't be too overly worried about the satellite stuff. It's more like your neighbors. That's a rule of thumb a lot of people have. It doesn't really have any rhyme or reason to it. There's no whatever. I mean, what if you're a really overweight person? It might take you a lot longer to stack it. I don't know that you eat that much more in food that you need to have that. And if you're a super skinny person, you might not have enough. But it is a good rule of thumb to kind of go by to figure out how much potential silver to have. But this is more of a kind of a wise tale than anything. That's awesome. That is not here, but that's awesome. I think my first apartment up in Utah was like $400 a month. Let's see. Yeah, that's good, man. That's good for real estate. If you can do that, hold on to it. And I got to tell you, every piece of real estate I've owned and sold, I kind of wish I held on to them. But we just haven't been in places in our life, and we've moved all over the country where we could easily manage stuff. So you got to take that in consideration too. All right, let's see what else you got in here. Well, if you can find a deer, then yes, do it. Except when I've had venison prepared, it was nasty. It was so chewy and gamey. I did not like it. So if you know how to prepare it well, I think that would be better. You can buy like half cows or full cows or quarter cows too. So you can definitely do that. And I think the other thing is, shoot, I'm forgetting the name of it. It's the largest private farm in the country. I used to get, that's where I got all of my food storage, but I haven't updated it in a while because it all lasts 30 years. I'll have to see if I can find the name of it, but maybe Azure Farms. I don't know if that's the right name, but you guys can get a lot of grains and beans and stuff like that too. I don't know. I think it's better to float. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's see. It is. What I'm more concerned about when you look at things like Bitcoin is we don't know who created it. We don't know if there's some kind of a hidden backdoor to it. Someone could unload the Satoshi wallet. It requires electricity. And every person I know that has a lot of Bitcoin assumes that we're always going to have electricity. So that means they're not very aware of things like pole shifts or micronovas or any of those kind of concepts out there, EMPs, CMEs. All that stuff could potentially happen. You can still use your gold and silver without any problem. And yes, things will be a lot worse if there's no electricity. However, things are a lot worse. Did you prepare for it? So if you've got a bunch of food storage, you've got a bunch of water, and you've got ammo, and you've got gold and silver, and you happen to be in a place that can survive some of those situations that could potentially happen, your crypto's gone, and Bitcoin's never going to come back. I think if aliens showed up tomorrow, I don't think they're going to care about the Bitcoin. I think they're going to be looking for the gold and silver. So bad? No, it's not bad. Could it become bad? Potentially. Is it becoming more controlled and more manipulated? Yes. Go look into who's owning all of the mining companies that do Bitcoin, and then start looking into seeing about the consolidation around nodes. Those are some things that you just have to watch out for. Will it continue going up? Oh, no doubt. I bet it goes up to somewhere between $1 and $10 million a coin. But will you be able to get out of it and buy metals before you're stuck with only a stable coin for exit liquidity? Those are the questions and concerns that I have with it, and why I don't go heavy into the cryptos. Now, with that said, had I done that instead of bought my gold and silver, I'd probably have 4 or 5 times my wealth today. But if I had bought gold back in 2003, instead of doing a bunch of real estate transactions, stock market stuff, starting companies and everything else, and just held on to it, I'd have over 10 times the wealth I have today. So that's something to keep in mind too. Gold continues to outpace inflation drastically. Yeah, but it doesn't matter if they can control BTC or not. They control the governments, so they can definitely change all of the regulations overnight if they want to. And if you're not at that level, then maybe that's not your thing. But the world is controlled by a handful of people. And I'm not going to say much more on that on here because I don't want to go away in a bag like my life still. As long as people want to buy them more, guys, anything that has a premium on it is as good as the times, right? If you get into a barter time, your Libertad is your worst investment because you paid a premium for it. I do think we're always going to have markets for the most part, unless we get into a scenario where you're kind of surviving by neighborhoods, and that would probably happen without electricity. In that case, you're not even going to be using metals. You're going to be using food and deodorant and supplies and soap and stuff and making things. Eventually, an economy will get built and you'll start using gold and silver again. And then we'll see what happens. If you can bring back the networks, then you could be using crypto again, potentially. But in those situations, things like Libertad are no good. Outside of that, I think we will always have a market and people will have preferences. So I also don't just go by weight, because I believe at some point when you go to use metals, it's not just going to be weighing dimes to see if you have a mercury dime or, a more worn dime or whatever else, or a Roosevelt dime. I don't think it's going to go by weight. I know a few other channels talk about that, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think what will happen is they'll just be looking at it in a dime's a dime. Now, some places may adopt that, but I don't think there's enough scales to make that system really work. Can you create scales? Yeah, you can. I just don't think it's going to really go that way. Now, when you're talking about bars, it's going to have to be something that does eventually have to use a scale, or you're going to have a problem where you're going to have to make other coins with it and stuff. So I don't do a lot of bars. I do some bars, but mostly coins. The other thing I'll throw out there too is I think you'll see preferences. If someone has this really cool Spider-Man coin, you could have an area that really likes Spider-Man. And so that Spider-Man coin could be worth a lot more than just a regular ounce of silver. And in other places, they might be like, I don't like Spider-Man. So I just want an eagle, or I want a buffalo. So you have to look out for those things too. Yeah, I'm not going to eat bugs, and I won't be happy. But I do hear some of our protein shakes have bugs in them already and other stuff. So they are sneaking these things in. All right, let's see what else you got in here. This is true, but there's only one country where that is completely illegal, and that's ours. You cannot have a central bank in this country that imposes, well, we shouldn't have central banks in this country. That's not totally illegal. What is illegal is for it to be private. The other thing that is illegal is the IRS. That is not legal. Paper notes, silver certificates, gold certificates, illegal. They kind of bent the rules on that. Cryptocurrency is illegal. You can't use that in this country. Fiat dollars, illegal. All illegal. The country, I don't know, every politician swears to the U.S. Constitution, and none of them are upholding it. So that's a problem. But it is all owned by the BIS, and that is the problem right there. So that, follow the money. Who owns the BIS? There you go. You know, what is probably what they're going to use for their plan. So that's the other thing I would say is always follow the money. Let's see. I don't know if I really get it. This is just what I get, though. So thank you, though. No, I think everybody that's worried about this doesn't understand what's going on. No, I don't think we're going to have that. I could be wrong, but I think what we're going into is a financial reset. And that financial reset is basically going to negate the big, pullback. If we have a crash, I think it's due to an everything crash, which would be something like the Great Depression, and you'd see prices go down. But I think they would start just printing a ton of money, and I think they would just give money out to people, and we'd go into hyperinflation pretty quickly, and you'd see the metals explode. And then I think they'd have to reset it all. So, do I think it's going to do that? I don't. I'm not planning for that. But, with all things, I do like to have some cash. I like to have some metals. And I like to have no debt. I like to have real estate. And so food storage, all that stuff. And if you kind of spread that around, then if there is a pullback and a crash, you're not toast. But if you're more than 20% of your net worth in metals, then yeah, that could really hurt you. So, I wouldn't necessarily recommend being more than 20% in your metals. Now, if you're betting on it that, hey, we are in a financial reset, it's really going to hit, then, that's your bet. Right. I think if you go more than 20% in anything, it's risky. I am tempted to sell my house and go all in on metals, but I don't think it's a smart move. I could go rent something and I'll have a higher payment than I do now, like higher expenses than I do now, but I'll have all this gold and silver, right, that can go up. Well, it'd be too much to put in a house. I'd have to go put it in a vault. And if I'm renting, I'm not going to have a big safe in where I'm renting. So now I've got third-party risk if I do that. And then the other issue you run into is if markets ever get crazy or bad enough, your landlord can lose their. There are reasons you do things. There are things that can be very good. All right, so I'm just seeing this now. We'll call this out too. So Born Hunting, thank you very much. That does help keep the lights on, and I can keep the lights on so you guys can see me. Thank you very much. So it was cool to go meet him. If you guys, you'll have to search for a thumbnail that looks like a metal detector at the beach to go see his video, but it was really cool. It was fun meeting him at the beach. I think it was down at Oceanside Pier, if I remember right. But thank you very much for the super chat. Yeah, it's hard for a lot of. I don't have time to build a house, even if I wanted to. I work like crazy hours, and then I travel a ton. And when I travel, it's usually a 6-hour flight somewhere. I've got one trip coming up that's going to be 12 hours. straight each way. And I just don't have the time to build a house. I did frame when I was younger, and my dad, did do stuff. Funny thing is, my wife's grandparents, when they built their house back in the 50s, they built the basement first, and they didn't have a house above it. And then they built a house on top of that, and they only built it as they had cash to pay for all the resources. What I will tell you is what's really happened in this country, not in addition to the wealth disparity happening, we're all buying nicer products of stuff. Like this house in here is a track home. Okay, there's like every 4 houses looks the same, and they've got really nice finishes inside. We've had to do some remodeling to it, but the crazy thing is it's a much higher, nicer way of living than our grandparents had, but we pay a ton more for it. And I think that's really what one of the issues is too. Now, if you want to do the best thing you can from an investment standpoint, you never own your house you live in. You always rent. If you want to do the best thing for your family from stability standpoint, you buy, because no one else can kick you out. At least that's kind of my rule of thumb with it. But as far as investing goes, your best thing to do is to rent a condo and put all your money into real estate and let it really rip and blow up until it takes over. But it goes back to the other question, like, do you spend $10,000 on a vacation? Well, I'll tell you, the best memories I have with my family is going to Hawaii, and those aren't cheap vacations. And we got to go surf the North Shore with them a few years ago in the wintertime, which was cool. And we didn't do any massive waves, guys. We did more calm stuff, but like 3 to 4 foot waves. They were fun. They enjoyed it. The kids kept doing it. And the power that's in that water out there is amazing. It just keeps pushing the whole time. You don't even feel like the set's coming in. It's like a conveyor belt. It just takes you out. And those are the best memories. That's what I have it for. I'm not trying to become a billionaire so I can have $1 billion. Everything I do is about experiences and about doing things. The money doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Money's a tool. They did stop making pennies, so go find any of them. I think it's 1983 and older are real copper. The rest of them are crap. So hold on to those. Yes, I will be showing that off pretty soon here. I probably shouldn't have, but it looked too cool. So I did. And I got the silver. I'm actually going to take it to Tangible, and we're going to go get those things graded if everything looks good. And then I don't know what I'll do with them. I may hold on to them. I might sell them. Is the price good? No, the price is stupid. But a coin like that's kind of a cool coin to maybe hold on to. I've got the flowing hair set too. If you got the means for a couple cool pieces, those are the kinds that can be cool that are modern. Outside of that, you want to have some, rare date MS63 to MS65 pre-33 gold coins on a rare mintage date, as well as a rare population. But then you're starting to get into the $20,000 to $50,000 a coin. But that's another way to go too. If you have $1 million, I guess that's another way to go. You don't necessarily have to vault. Just start getting $50,000 to $100,000 coins. You can do that. Yeah, that's coming at some point. And crypto looks to be the system that they're going to use. I don't know what they'll use for it, but everything's to get you closer to that and used to it. Retiring at 30 is great. I think it's awesome. I was so close to retiring at 30, and then 2008 hit a little after 30. And basically wiped us out pretty good. We've had to kind of rebuild, but it's all relative to how you live and where you are as far as retiring. I could retire right now if I moved to a different state. I wouldn't have to work anymore. But this is what it is. All right, let's see. Man, you guys are fast in the comments today. So far behind. I hate not answering all the questions. And then I'm like, okay, I got to go to bed at some point. It's like 9 o'clock my time. But I work East Coast time, so I've got to be up at like 6 and ready for video calls and stuff. I don't know how long I want to do that. The video calls are getting taxing, guys. Okay, this is a good one for you guys too. The last stuff I sell is my constitutional silver, period. That's the last stuff I sell because that's the stuff that's going to keep me alive with bartering if I have to get into it. So that's the last stuff I sell. The first stuff I'm going to sell is my bars. Those go first. Next is going to be any foreign coins I have, gold and silver. And then after that, I'm going to use round, get rid of all my rounds. And so the last stuff I'm going to end up with will be my gold buffaloes and my Morgan dollars and my dimes. I'd let my quarters and half dollars go first. I'd let my piece dollars go because I think they're ugly. It looks like her hair is out of control on those things. I don't know, but you can usually get them at a good price. The other thing is, some of the fun coins I'd hold on to potentially, but eventually those would go too. So I'd kind of do the opposite of that. I'd probably hold a little bit of gold too. I do think it's good to have fractional of both gold and silver, and your silver fractional is your junk or constitutional. Let's see. This can always come back around. So, earlier I said, no, do I think it's going to crash again? Not like 2011. I don't think we're going to have we're hitting the top and it's going to pull back. Everything will pull back unless the reset hits and a gold standard is set. If that happens, then all of a sudden your gold and silver prices don't move. They're stuck. Okay, at that point, everything's stuck. I'm going to move most of my stuff into real estate, and I'm going to go for cash flow. The only exception to that would be that there's no more cash, and everything has to be, a stable coin. And I might be a little concerned about that. But we will have up and downs. But I don't think we're about to have a 2011 right now. Is the way that I took that question. I think we've got until probably 2030, maybe 2032 for this gold cycle to go through. Could it happen a little earlier? It could, but I think we're going to see that continue to go up. It's going to be hard to judge the top of that. It could be somewhere between 8,000 and 20,000. And you could see silver go up to $300 to $1,000, maybe even $2,000. It's hard to say what's going to happen, and it depends on if they do a reset. It depends on if they do a revaluation. All of those things can potentially happen. They don't have to do a confiscation again because there's not that many people that are holding the gold. But you can't really revalue something you don't own, right? So it depends on how much money the government actually has in gold and silver. We could have some issues with that. But with that said, things that go up do come back down. I don't think we're going to see $20 silver again because of inflation. Now, could we see $20 silver again? Yes. If everything falls apart, right? Or if they do like a reverse split of the money system or something like that, right? But I don't see us going back down to 20. Could we get back down to 35 right now? That's possible. Could we get back down to $3,000 gold? That's looking really hard now. It's probably closer to 31, 3,200. This week, with what's going to happen with the Fed, if they, depending on what they come out with and what they say, we could see it get pretty close to $4,000 even this month. This week we could see it go over 37. I mean, right now it's sitting at 36.46, right? It wouldn't take much to put it over 37. Now, a lot of times people will sell based on the news that comes out from the Fed, and you're seeing the increases right now. So there's probably a higher probability of it going a little bit below 36 by the end of this week. But you could see it get up to 4,000 if there's some crazy circumstances this month that go on. More likely, I think the end of this year, you're going to see $4,000 gold. I'm still holding to that. It might go higher. And then my $40 has already been hit. So I think we could see $45 silver this year. All right. Hey, El, how's it going? You got to be tired. It's pretty late for you. This is because there aren't very many dedicated silver mines. I think there's only 2 or 3 dedicated silver mines in the world right now. Most of them are copper mines. They do pull up the silver. That's not to say that there aren't other places where they could put a silver mine and that they could, be dedicated. I haven't done enough research on that, but I do believe, I do believe it's okay still. Let's see here. Yeah, that's not good. You don't want diseased animals in your freezer. Thank you, guys. So that's just a reminder to hit the thumbs up there. I talk to Azure Blue probably daily in chat. So just reach out to me, OC. I assume as much because people continue to do it. I've just had really bad deer. Venison. I'm like, okay, just because you called it venison didn't make it taste any better. It was like super tangy. Kind of like they made it like a jerky. It did not taste very good. But I think it's awesome. Yeah, Augustin Farms, I think is what it was. Is one of the companies I use, but that's not I don't think that's the one that ships everything out. I think that's the long-term food storage. All right, let's see. You guys are laughing at all kinds of stuff now. Let's see. Yeah, dude, I don't know how to process a cow, but I guess we may have to all learn how to do that someday, maybe. Do you use like a battle axe? What do you use? A machete to do a cow? I don't know what you do for a cow, man. Those are hardy animals. All right. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I wish that was true. I don't think that's actually happening, though. I don't think Trump has that power. That's going to have to come from a much higher power. I think what you're going to see is a lot of people go undercover, and then I think they're going to come back. At least the way that I read the Book of Revelations, we win in the end, but it gets pretty crazy, crappy, bad before then. So there's going to be a period of time that's pretty bad, and I don't think people are lifted up ahead of time either. I think we're going to be going through it. Don't think there's a rapture that happens before the tribulation, all that stuff. But I do think some of these people are going to be taken out. I do think it's going to be God that has to step in to make it happen because, I mean, we didn't even get the files out, right? The Epstein files didn't even come out. Yeah, everything's owned. So what's interesting is they even let us talk about this stuff because people think we're crazy. So it just kind of builds smoke and mirrors around it. So just my take on this, my guess, I could be totally wrong, but let's say they outlaw gold and silver, so it goes into the underground and people are using it. And those that don't want to be part of that system decide to be in small communities and they kind of use it for bartering back and forth. Hopefully that happens. Everybody else in the cities is using a cryptocurrency. How do you collapse a system like that? It could happen on its own, but it could also happen from something like a massive solar wind from the sun that wipes out all the computer chips. That's my bet. I think God takes out that system. Could be wrong though. I don't know. They keep going back and forth back there, but we had dinner a while back. But we did have some pretty good cinnamon rolls until I burned the heck out of one of them in the little oven. Yeah, there's some ways to negotiate sometimes, but yeah, it's good to pay your taxes, guys. And if you accidentally lose things in a boating accident, make sure that it's really lost. Make sure there's, gotta be careful with that stuff. I do think it's a good set. I'll be showing that again, guys. So you'll see that. Yeah, retirement's not. Yeah, exactly. I'll never retire. I'm too ADHD to do that. All right, let's see what else you guys got. Awesome. Well, thank you for jumping over here for a minute. Hopefully you enjoy some of my ranting. It's funny. I'll do videos at the beach where I've got a selfie stick, and that should be the most embarrassing thing in the world because I run into neighbors and stuff, and my kids run away from me. And my babies are 19. That's not embarrassing to me, and it's not hard for me to do. This is hard for me to do where I feel like I'm just talking to myself. For some reason, I don't feel like I'm talking to myself out there when I'm doing the beach videos, but it's much easier for me to do a live stream if I've got someone else in here I'm talking to, which is why we're going through the comments. I feel like I end up just ranting. It is just part of your toolbox. I can tell you that if it gets bad enough, the only thing you really need is air, water, and food, guys. That's it. I mean, you could have $1 billion of silver bars, and if electricity's gone and you've got to hunt for food and you don't know how to hunt or shoot a gun, and you don't know how to process meat or an animal or how to grow any food, and you have no seeds and you have no water storage, or you have no protection, it doesn't matter. Your silver's worthless. So you got to make sure you got all that other stuff too. Yeah, we're in those times definitely right now. I think we've got a lot of people that are just deciding not to do as much. I mean, I'm working with my accountant to finish up my taxes right now, and I got to call him tomorrow. And he's telling me things where I'm pretty sure I have not made a penny from this channel in 2.5 years, even though I've made money. It's all gotten sucked up in taxes. And now I'm being told I've got to pay a bunch of other California fees, even though I have LLCs out of the state, all this junk. And some of that may have been done by making a mistake on some of the things we did to try to help people out. And so I'm even looking at it like, hey, how do I even make this stuff work still without it costing a ton of money? Yeah, there are people that make massive amounts of money on YouTube, but it's kind of like a 99-1 rule. 1% of the channels are making a ton of money. 99% of them get paid hardly anything. I wish it wasn't the case, but it feels like that too. So that's the John Galt comment here. Is it's like, hey, I've got all this I want to produce and help people with, but at some point, is it worth it? Does it, the amount of time we put into these things, does it really help you guys enough to keep doing it? At least that's how it feels. This is true. So amen to that. Stacking surfers right in the spot price wave. Dude, the wave's going to get really big. The gold and silver wave is going to get really big. I don't think any of you guys really understand what's about to hit here. And it like massive, okay? Like we're talking like Mavericks, or we're talking, I forget the name of the place that's out there in Portugal, how to say it, but you're talking like 50 to 100 foot waves, okay? And if any of you guys have surfed, very few of you have done that, because a lot of people that do that die. You got to be like a complete adrenaline junkie to do that stuff. So that might be what we do. I mean, maybe we turn into a metal detector channel, make some money that way. There's a lot of people losing their rings here. I've lost maybe 4 tungsten rings like this in the ocean in the wintertime because it's just freezing cold in the water. It's like 55 degrees. All right. Yeah, so encouragement's always good, guys. It's always good. I enjoy you guys coming out here and checking and talking and hanging out. But it's the key is community is the most important thing when it comes to stacking. You've got to build your community. I've got people here locally that I can call up and see if they want to buy stuff if I need to sell it. I've got people that if I need to sell, I can sell for 1% or less below spot right now, which is really good. I've got, oftentimes we can find people selling locally here that will sell below spot or at spot. So pretty much everything I've bought except for the sunflower coin from the mint, because they overcharge you for everything, has been at spot or lower. And And so I definitely think it's worth doing that. And I think it's worth, building the community so you can do that. So metals is part of it. Can you barter with it? Can you do that? I think you also need to have a better understanding of other people, your neighbors, get to know them. If anything really gets crazy, are they going to be trying to break through your windows? Can you have Discord with them and stuff? I know some people around here that have, a bunch of wood in their garage to board up all their windows so that no one can come in to do that. It's probably not a bad idea. It's maybe a little bit extreme, but it's not a dumb idea, because if things ever got really crazy. But, outside of going super crazy with it, if we're just looking at metal prices and we're looking at values of things, it's going to continue to go up. Okay. So, I'll just show you guys a chart here real quick. Well, here's that click. That is like straight up. Things are going to keep going up like this, guys. Okay. And are we going to get to the point where we have things that pull back? So you can see these tops, you can see these pullbacks, right? You can see the big dips. We're going to have some of those things that happen. I don't expect it to go straight up all the way between now and 2030. We could have some pullbacks that come down. It all depends on how fast things go. If we get to like 4,500 to 5,000 this year on gold, I'm expecting a pretty big pullback, like $500 to $1,000. If we barely get to 4,000 this year, I think we're going to be okay. I don't think it's going to have a really big pullback. That 200-day moving average is probably going to be around, by the end of the year, if we get to that, around 3,500, 36. So maybe we could have a pullback to that. If you dollar cost average, you don't have to worry about the pullbacks or any of that. You just keep buying a little bit all the time. If you get paid a lump sum every 6 months or every quarter or once a year, don't go crazy buying stuff all at one point, unless you are way behind on your goals. So make sure you spread some of that stuff out. All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you for jumping on here. This is kind of last minute. Just thought I would jump on here since all the crazy stuff going on. Andy Schectman tomorrow. So check that out. If you guys want to buy from him, do this. That's always helpful. Do that too, right there. And then if you guys want to be a part of the mentor program, you can join it here. It's at the lowest price they'll let me go. And giving that a try for a few months to see if it'll work out or not. If it doesn't work out, we'll try something else. But, email me. If you guys want more information, if you want to see some more opportunities for mentorship and all of that, let me know. I'm trying to figure out how to best do that. I had it set up on YouTube and people were paying for it, but no one ever emailed me. So there's no way for me to contact you guys. But if you have interest in doing more of that, let me know and we can try to set something up. Tomorrow's a hard one to completely predict, but it's not so much what they do at the rate. If they go a half a point cut tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow that they're cutting it. If they go, actually, it might be Wednesday or Thursday. I'll have to look at it. But this week, when the Fed funds rate comes out, or when the CPI comes out, actually, let me just look real quick for you guys. Let's see. Okay, it's going to be September 11th at 8:30 a.m. That's an ominous date. So that is when the CPI comes out, and then the Fed will come. They'll meet. They'll talk about things, and then they'll come out with that. If they come out with a quarter point and they say that inflation is looking in check and that it looks like we can do some other rate cuts this year, gold's going up. So is silver, in my opinion. If they come out and they do a quarter point, but they say, hey, inflation's looking a little sketchy, we're not sure what's going to happen the rest of the year, I think you're going to see things go down. A lot of what you've just seen come up in the last week is because of the rate cuts and anticipation of what's coming. If they cut a half a point and say that it's necessary and the CPI is a little hotter than it was supposed to be, all hell's going to break loose. in that case there, I think you're going to see the stock market get hit really hard. Cryptos hit really hard. I don't exactly know what's going to happen to gold. It could get hit and take it down a bit. However, it could do the opposite. So it could be the kind of thing where you see it go down for a few hours or a couple of days and then it goes back up. Any of these, it's anybody's guess exactly what these things are going to do. Even a guy that has all the chart magic out there doesn't have a crystal ball. So what I would recommend is if you're looking to buy stuff this week and you haven't bought yet, buy a little bit before the report comes out, buy a little bit after the report comes out. To go buy it all right now to front run it is usually means it's going to go the opposite direction. If you're buying, it's going to go down. And if you're selling, it's going to go up. So that's how those things work. All right. Let me turn this banner thing off. So, okay, guys. Anyway, tomorrow, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, we'll do a live with Andy. He confirmed last week. I need to still get him to confirm in the morning, but everything should be good. If for some reason we need to push it out, I'll let you know. Bring your questions. And if you've got any other questions for me, stackingsurfer@gmail.com. And have a great evening, guys. Talk to you soon. Adios.